All right, welcome everybody. This is the second episode or second issue, volume part, second episode of Q&A Thursday. And so I've got my questions here. And before we get started on that, I wanted to do a little housekeeping. This video was shot after the video that I haven't published yet, which is how to stay cool in the heat off grid for the How We Do Stuff series. So this haircut doesn't really make a lot of sense yet, but once you watch that video, then it'll make a lot of sense. I'm not going to post that video until this one is up. So after you've watched this one, sometime today, it takes a long time to upload, but sometime today or maybe early tomorrow, the How We Do Stuff staying cool in the Texas heat video will go up. So just wanted to let you know, this is not anything remarkable, but it is explained in the video that will come out next. All right, so here we go with questions. How We Do Stuff Q&A Thursday, episode number dos. Number one, how often does an outhouse need to be relocated? We've moved ours 3 times in 13 years, and I'm probably about to move it again. But there's not really an answer to that because it's a product of how many people you have, how often you use it, what you're using it for, what other stuff get dumped in there, how well it was built, whether water's running into it. So we built ours, dug it 8 to 10 feet deep probably, and then after it gets filled up, we'll dig another one, we'll move it, and then that one we actually didn't just cover it up. We put pallets over it, tarps, and then we covered it up because we wanted it to actually compost. And so we've got 2 holes now that are 10 years old or 8 years old that are composted, and one of those we're now digging out to reuse it, and it's just loamy dirt. And so that's about all I can say, because it is a product. I mean, if you've got 13 people, then of course it's going to fill up faster than you have just 2 people using it. All right. Do you know of any edible mushrooms? If any edible mushrooms grow out in that area, mushrooms are in high demand. We get some on occasion after a very a long period of rain or moisture. We're in a semi-arid desert. So mushrooms don't really grow here as a matter of course, but if we have a month, 2 months, or a year like 2007 of extremely moist weather, wet weather, then we'll get those, I think they call them puffballs mushrooms, which are edible, and maybe some other ones I just wouldn't know. We don't generally eat mushrooms because they don't grow around here. There are people who grow them in root cellars, and I've got a root cellar, and I've actually considered doing mushrooms, farming mushrooms in the root cellar, but we'll see how that goes. How do you make your bourbon? And he's got a couple of questions here. How do you make your bourbon, and how do you dry out the tobacco for your cigars? Both of those are really like whole videos I need to do. And I've got a lot of people asking about the bourbon, so I'm going to plan on one of those pretty soon. Maybe in the next month, I'll do a bourbon video. The tobacco video may take a while because I'm not growing any tobacco right now, and curing tobacco is very difficult. Growing tobacco is easy, but curing tobacco is difficult, and especially when you live off grid. So if you don't have a curing chamber that's electronically controlled, moisture and all that, then it can be very difficult. So I'll have to show that sometime when I'm actually growing tobacco. How do you bathe, given that you don't have running water? A lot of different ways. We have water, and so we take what's called bucket baths. I don't know if you can see it out here. You really can't. Over this shoulder, behind this stuff right here, outside through the window. My wife has a little tent and screen house that is a shower room, and so you can take a bucket of water out there and a cup, and you pour it on yourself, and you scrub down, soap up, and all that. It's really nice. Get the water right out of the cistern or heat it up. I've got an actual shower down at my office, and it was working really, really well until this winter, and I neglected to drain everything, and the pipes broke. So I've got a big, and I've got a video on here. You can look up the video on the OffGrid shower. So and maybe I'll link to that down in the descriptions. So yeah, so down there we've got a pump and a solar powered deal that kind of can run a real shower, and we've got a little propane instant on water heater. It's just not running right now, so the girls and I, every once in a while, I'll use this shower up here, or just take a bucket and bucket yourself down with some water and clean up. We use baby wipes a lot for baby wipe shower, and as you'll see in the video that's coming out after this one, which is the staying cool video, go jump in the creek, take a bar of soap, you're good to go. All right. So this is quite a few questions, and these came from my friend author John L. Monk, and as he mentions here, some of these might make a good series, so I don't know that I can actually answer them now. Thing you love and hate the most about off-grid life. I think that's going to have to be a video series. It's a very, very good question. I love so many things about living off-grid. That would be difficult to do, but things I hate about living off-grid, I could do a video, 5 things I hate about living off-grid, and I'm going to do that. Write it down. I'm going to do it. Okay, John's next question. How do you deal with invasive insects in your home and garden? We use a lot of non-toxic ways to keep insects down. Chickens, of course, birds, ducks. We also use some organic types of pesticides on occasion. We use a lot of diatomaceous earth, which is a powdery material that you can spread on your garden or around things, and it will kill things with an exoskeleton. Get a little breezy, like ants and whatnot, and a lot of bugs. And then we also use things like neem oil on occasion, or permethrin, or if we have to, if we've got an outbreak of something, we try to do everything as natural as possible. And so we try to herd the birds into there, get the chickens in there, and the ducks, and all of that. Inside the house, we really don't have very many problems. Every once in a while, we'll get a little line of ants, and we'll take care of them really, really quickly. And if you stay on top of it, you really don't get a problem. All right. Do you and the family do any astronomy? No, we don't. My son kind of got into it. He got a telescope and kind of got into it for a little while. I like to look at the stars, and I used to have an app on my phone where you could hold it up there and you could say this is what that is, but we really don't. We spend a lot of time outside and a lot of time, enjoying the creation, but I've never really gotten too much into astronomy. Have the children always known the off-grid lifestyle, or did any of them come into it at an older age? Tracy was the oldest. She was around 12. She had already lived on a farm for most of her life, but didn't move to the off-grid life until she was about 12. And so she was the oldest. Jennifer was about, I'm going to say 7 or 8 when we moved out here. So she has some memories of the before off-grid life. Sarah really doesn't. She was 2 or 3 years old, maybe 3, when we moved out here. So she's pretty much lived out. Robert was 5 or 6 too, and so he probably doesn't remember a whole lot. But most of them have been on this life for most of their life, and so. All right. Do you do any woodworking? Yeah, I do. I used to do a lot more, and I hope to do a lot more. I have taken some classes in woodworking with hand tools, and have made things like tables and some side tables and things like that. A lot of work on no power tools, joinery, that kind of stuff. Right now, I just don't have. I'm I'm moving in that direction. I don't have the infrastructure really to do what I would like to do, which is doing some cabinet making and all that kind of stuff, but with hand tools and totally with no power tools. And right now, the two things I need is I need a workbench, a solid workbench. Have a vise that I could attach to it once I build a solid workbench, and I really need a shaving horse, for a draw knife. If I had those two things, I could build everything else that I need. And so I've got all the hand tools. I've got thousands of dollars worth of really, really nice hand tools, but I need those two things. And so, I'm kind of torn because I really can't build things without those things. And not what, I was going to do a video. In fact, I'm planning on doing a video on bourbon and making bourbon. But one of the things that I need to do is I need to because the off-grid way that I do the oaking or mesquiting of the charring of the wood is you need staves, or you need what are called rounds. And I do those kind of by hand. It would be a lot easier if I had a shaving horse with my draw knife to do that, and I could show you how I do it, and that would really help the bourbon video. Without having a shaving horse, it's hard to make a shaving horse. It's not impossible, but and without a workbench, it's just very difficult to build anything. So those two things I need. If anybody wants to donate those two things, it would ramp up all the good videos that would be coming out, including the bourbon video and quite a few other ones. How important is community, trading, getting help in your lifestyle? Well, it's very important. It used to be we were more active in that. We're not actually a part of the local community here anymore. We left for some theological reasons, and so we don't really have a lot of communion with the local folks. It would be nice if we did, but we don't. And so, in my mind, that's really how we should be living, is in community, and living with being able to trade and barter and exchange labor and all those type of things would be great. To be honest with you, even when we were in the community, it was very difficult to get people in that mindset. And so, for example, we planted whole fields, acres and acres of green beans, and really weren't able to get people to come out and even harvest them for free, other than maybe one or two occasions in all the years we were out here. We put in wheat crops and had trouble, just other people were kind of doing their own thing and weren't really community minded in my estimation. And so we built a 12-foot by 12-foot smokehouse that was big enough for everybody in the community to use. And I don't think anybody else in the community ever used it one time. So, I think in the right situation with the right people, that type of community trade barter work would work. But if people aren't really kind of like-minded about it, it's just not going to work. And so we kind of would like to have that, but we don't right now. So kind of you all are our community for right now. Thanks for the questions, John. I think all 5 or 6 of those was John L. Monk. He's a great writer. Go buy his books. John L. Monk. I'll put a link to John's books or to his Amazon page in the discussion area, or I always say description, in the description. All right, let's keep going. How do you manage your kitchen gray water? Right now, it's pretty primitive. We have a sink system, and it's just got a pipe coming down, and it goes into a bucket. And so we empty that bucket, and we use it for trees and for gray water, for plants or whatever. That's going to change, and I hope it's going to change pretty soon. I'm going to be piping that past some trees that we have planted so that it'll have a drainage system that'll actually be used for watering. But for right now, we're just hauling it in buckets. All right, so this was a question that came in from a really good friend of mine, and it was part of a longer discussion, and I had a few people kind of asking the same thing, so I asked his permission to include it here rather than writing out a really long answer. And I'll kind of paraphrase his question. He asked, how am I doing? And he said, sometimes I sense some stress in you to meet financial obligations or goals. I was wondering if you're making it. If you had settled that stuff with the elders that happened and such, and gotten a teeny bit of your chin above water. You know, it's an interesting question, and I get questions like this all the time, so I'm happy to answer it. The answer is, it can be different based on what we mean, or what, pardon me, by what we mean by, are we doing all right? We don't really need money as far as the way that normal people need money. There's two ways I could live my life, or we can live our lives, and that's inwardly or outwardly. If we turn inward, which means I'm not doing all this outreach, I'm not spending hours answering people's questions online, I'm not producing content like videos like YouTube or for Facebook, or doing podcasts and other things. If I'm not doing any of that stuff, then I really don't need that much money. We can survive on what we grow. We can sell some things here and there. I've got cattle I can sell every once in a while, rabbits, chickens, eggs, and we can do fine, and we wouldn't have any stress, and we wouldn't have any of these things you're talking about, these kind of obligations. But almost 100% of our obligations come from outreach, which are things that I do for free, relatively for free, that you hope people will support. You hope people will decide that it's worthwhile to get this kind of content. I don't know anybody else that's doing really what we're doing. There are a lot of homesteading YouTube channels and that kind of stuff, but they are clearly not the same. Anybody who's been doing this for 5 weeks can sit on there and watch YouTube videos, then turn around in a video and say, this is how you do this. And there's some people that are very, very successful on their YouTube channels who really don't know much about what they're doing, who do that. They watch videos and then they make videos, and they happen to be good at production, and so they become successful. As my friend mentioned here, we kind of got ourselves in a bind because we overly depended on the income that I was making based on donations for my ministry work. And when we determined that we needed to leave the community here for theological reasons, that went poorly. And because of that, we were kind of retroactively stripped of some income that we were expecting, and we're just left high and dry. And because of that, that was like last October. It's been a chore to kind of claw our way out. Only because we had obligations that weren't obligations to for our survival or even for our happiness, but they were obligations that I had incurred because I'm doing this outreach, or because of the internet, or because, you know, answering questions for people, or doing theological ministry stuff, and all the interactions that I have on social media and all of that. It incurs a cost. These phones, our phone bills, these aren't things that we need. We can live our life completely and utterly happily without them, but they are part of the outreach. And if people want to help continue that kind of stuff, then there's ways that you can help. And fly buzzing my face. One of the easiest ways, and I'll put links to these down in the description to help, is through Patreon. And I'm going to be changing up my Patreon a little bit, but just go to patreon.com/Michael Bunker. And I'll put the link down in the discussion. And you can do as little as $1 a month, or $5. Most people do around $3 to $5 a month. And it just goes to pay for everything that we do that's outreach. And in exchange, everybody that's on my Patreon gets pretty much everything I write. So books, chapters as they come out monthly, and some exciting stuff coming down the road, some more things that I'm going to be writing. But you also get access to everything else, you know. And so if you want me to keep doing that, go to Patreon, and, you know, just do $1 a month or $5 a month or whatever you can do. There are other ways to help. You know, we sell products online every once in a while. And so if you can buy stuff when they are for sale, you can follow me on Facebook. My Facebook is down in the description as well. You can private message me if you want to help. We are setting up a website and trying to make it where people can do donations and all that. You can also buy things when they are in the description. When you buy stuff, it doesn't cost you any extra, but when you do buy it through the Amazon links, we get some affiliate money. So just let you know, whenever there's an affiliate code in there, we do get a little money from Amazon, but it doesn't add anything to your cost at all. Anyways, so that goes back to the question about how we're doing. We're doing all right. We live off of less than most people pay for their car payment or their house payment, or at least those things to put together, and we're getting by. But it really would be nice to be able to afford some of the things that we could do that would really multiply this station and this channel. Getting better equipment, as I mentioned, those woodworking stuff, so that I could show some more projects. So if you can help, do help, and I'll mention it again at the end. All right. Stupid question. All right. How do you guys clean your house? Well, we clean it pretty much just like anybody else. I take it the only thing that would be different is that we don't have running water, so we carry the water. But I mean, we sweep and mop, and it's very, very teeny house. I mean, I don't know what the square footage is, 500 square feet or something like that. So there's not a whole lot to clean, but we clean it like, we don't use a lot of chemicals, but we sweep and mop and wash things down. And I'm not going to say it's a stupid question, but it's not a lot different than maybe, you probably have a vacuum or something like that. But other than that, we sweep. Okay, next one. Tell us the plan where people will be able to come out to your place and visit and maybe work. When is this going to start? We're still working on a few infrastructure projects, but I would like to do this sometime this fall. And so I'm working on that. And basically the way it would work is, and we did set up a GoFundMe. It's still available at gofundme.com/Michael Bunker, where people can help us with our infrastructure. We want to be able to have enough water and to have, better toilet facilities and all that kind of stuff. We'd eventually, like up here, we have a partially built little house we'd like to finish. So if people want to live off grid but have not particularly stay in a tent, if you can donate to that GoFundMe, then that's one of our next projects. Is we want to get that place built, and then people could come, and if you want to, you can come out and stay in a tent. You can live like we do, or help us with projects, help us harvest wheat, help us harvest beans, whatever. And then if you wanted to stay in a house that's kind of like this one, no electricity or anything, it's off grid, but it is a house, and it would have access to water and an outhouse and all that, then we're hoping to get that built too. Again, that takes money that we just don't have, and so we're hoping to build up this channel so that we'll be able to afford that. And that GoFundMe, which is in the description, is a good way if you want to donate to that project. All right, I think this is the last one. When can we expect the off-grid wine video? Also, are you selling garlic this year? Well, I actually recorded the off-grid watermelon wine video parts, and then I lost the footage, and then I just found it this week. So I may be putting that video together this week or next week. So I wouldn't expect it for a couple of weeks. And then I'm planning on doing some wine videos this fall when we have. The story is, and I'm hoping this works out, the vineyard we've been working at for about 6 years up in Cross Plains, they lost their crop because of freeze, and so, but they're still going to have some second growth grapes that are going to come out that they're not really allowed to use. And so if we can get some of those, I might be able to do some natural wine making videos this fall, August, September. I'm hoping to be able to do that. Also, are you selling garlic this year? Unhappily, we are not selling garlic this year. We did grow some. Most of our garlic didn't make it because of the real hard winter we had, as far as no real moisture. And so we did grow enough that we think we're going to have seed for planting this fall, but we're not going to be selling any of our garlic this year. Now, I might have a line on somebody who grew garlic in this area, who the garlic would be very, very similar to ours. And if I can work that out where I can get some of that garlic, I might be able to provide it to the people who are regular yearly purchasers of our garlic, and it should be as good or as close to as good as our garlic as you can possibly get. So stay tuned, and I will let you know about garlic for 2018. All right, I think that's it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please do check all of the links down in the description. And if you can, donate and help. Subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed. And one of the best things you can do is right next to the subscribe button, there's a little bell icon. Click on that, and make sure you click on all that you want notifications for all of the videos when you come out. And that way you'll know every time I put up a video. All right, y'all. This is how we do stuff, and I'll talk to you again soon.